see that later.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so just like we created home page, we have to create the same. So I created the instance of operations in a static way, so that I can call it static way. So let's make this static again. So register details is static. So registration details is static, and if you want to use the operations instance, you have to make this static. Otherwise, just don't make this static. The advantage with making this static is, in the test case, I can call it using the class name directly, like this homepage dot registration details, something like this. Okay, in this case, it's actually register page, not home page. So earlier we thought we would put this function in the same home page, but it does belong to the different page. Okay. So this is advantage. You can call it right there. Otherwise, you have to call it this way, non-static way, new home page dot. So either one is fine, but just for the sake of just for the sake of calling it statically, I don't want to make copies, so I created static. And if you don't want to make this static, if you don't have this static, that's fine. Public static void registration. So then you have to have this static too. Okay, so registration. Let's go and see. Registration is done. Now we just details. Those we already clicked on the link, correct? Now register page, registration details. Now set text so and so. Okay. Now before this, what we have to do is we have to find out the XPath for it, right? XPath. So the same story. We have to open tools. Okay. So before this, I will also create one page objects class for the same. So that would be again same thing. The class should match, class name should match the page name and registration page. But since it's an objects XPath related class, I'll just append this with patch. Okay. So now whatever XPaths we find out, first thing we have to store them all in this. So I'll do the same stuff. Highlight it and click on it and Control F inside. Then there is a validator. Now you start writing input. Okay. So now there are 15 matches. You have to do this again. Okay. So input and name is first name. So my job is easier. So all I'll do is contains @name, comma, first name. And you put this in a single quotes. Okay, single match. So I'll pick it up. Control A, Control C. Then I want to store it as a, public static final string. And what kind of object it is? It is a text box. So naming convention should be similar. Text box. Underscore, what is the text box name? First name. So that's the variable name, and I am putting whatever XPath we just now captured. Okay, so that is the first XPath, text box first name. So let's capture all of them in the single page. That would be easier. Then we can operate upon them. So now you, without having to worry about all the XPaths from the scratch, you can easily figure out first name is first name. So this last name's name should be last name. So just try it out. If you are lucky, you will get the single match. Because common sense, yeah, last name. So then it highlights the last name. So take it. Okay. So now I don't even have to take it. Just copy this. Okay, I'll just expand this so that you can see the everything. Control C, then Control V. Right. Now this should be the last name. Correct. And obviously whatever I captured, that says last name. That's it. Okay, so now phone number. Let's see about this phone number. So my gut feeling is this should be this should be phone or something. Okay, but it may not be. Sometimes developer gives something else. So let's try it from the beginning. Okay, so name is phone. So what did I do is the mistake is P is capital. Here P is small. So you have to be careful. So that's why I did it again, and there you go. Phone. Okay, so now again I don't have to retype this, so that's why I'm copying, which is pretty common in development. So text box, and all I change is the variable name to phone, and whatever I wrote here, I'll copy this and assign this to here. Okay, so the technique, watch here carefully. So I don't have to remove the quotes. Just double click after the first quote, it will select everything. Just delete it, and you can paste the new one. That's kind of technique. Okay, so email address, and okay, so let's try this ourselves. Email, and there you go. So it's a match. Yellow means match, 1 of 1 means unique match. You can just highlight it and see. Okay, but the problem is it is highlighting username, see, not the email. So this could be the problem. So developer must have by mistake, he must have given this email to username, username to email. But let's try it. We don't want to take chance. So email, and yeah, bingo. So ID is username. For email he has given ID, but whatever the developer has given, we have to take it. There is no choice, right? So let's take name or ID, doesn't matter. So if you want to take ID, that's fine, you just change this to ID. I mean ID and name are same, but you can change the property name. So now it actually highlights email. So whatever is XPath for that, you have to take it in, right? Okay, so first I'll copy this and copy this and put it here. And what is the name here? Text box. And what is the name? Whatever the name of this is.
Email.
Email. So yeah, this the reason I'm asking you is you will get just checking if you are watching this or not. And so if you answer it, you will actually be able to do this on your own later if I give you homework, right? Okay, so now go to address. Same story. Do this, but you can actually, if you get lucky, you can get a single match. So just try it. Address. ID is address. ID address is not working. So let's try name. So I'm just trying. Okay, so there are 2 matches, 1 of 2. So exactly this must be the line number 1 address, line number 2. So that's pretty common in address fields. So let's see about this. Yeah, address 1. So all I need to change is address 1, and just highlight and see. Yes, it is highlighting my field of interest, right? That's a field I'm interested in. And take this, copy this line because it's same, right? I don't have to change public static financing every time, so it could be same. All I need to change is just the variable name, and this is address 1, and we'll copy it from here and paste it here. Okay, now most of the people just skip the address line too, because it's optional unless you have building number, suite name, so and so. So we'll skip it because it's not optional. It's optional field, not mandatory field. It's perfect. City. Okay, so let's try city. Okay, so I'm getting single match without having to rewrite from the sketch. So I'll take it in. This will be faster. Don't have to worry about writing it from the sketch. If you want to practice, you can do so. But yeah, so I would suggest you do it from the sketch, at least for the first few XPaths, then do it as I do it. Right? City. So text box is a type of object because it's a text box, and city is a type object name. Whatever is the name, I'm just using it as is. Okay. Now state and province. Okay, my gut feeling says that it's state, and just don't take chance, just verify, and yeah, it is positively verified. So now let's copy this, and whatever is the XPath, I'll take it. State, and this is the state. Can you make me the presenter? No, Ramesh, wait, later, because it will interrupt, right, the class. We will look at, I mean, you must be making a silly mistake.
No. I just tried it happened. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so state or province. Here you can mention state or province or state. That's fine. So most of people like get confused. Do we have to exactly use this? No, because there is a slash, right? And slash are not acceptable in the Java names. So you don't have to. So if you want to mention state or province, just use R instead of R symbol, because this symbol is not acceptable in Java, like I told you, right? So state is fine, because state or province, you can easily figure out what is that field for. Okay, so then postal code. So let's try our luck. Postal code. See, name is equal to postal code, exactly. So I can just use postal. That is the advantage with using contains. It may not be perfect match, exact match. I am going with a partial match, and that is perfectly fine. As long as I'm getting one of one match, we can use partial match. Now copy this and paste, and this is a postal code. Copy your XPath. So these names are up to you. I mean, you don't have to exactly name. You can name it as textbox underscore postal or postal code completely, or zip code. But I recommend you use the same names, because you might get confused. Because if this is the same as this, you will easily refer to this later. I mean, whoever comes like new joinees, they can also understand perfectly. Okay, so then comes the problem. Now all of these are text boxes. Then what kind of object is this? The country object is called
Select.
What is the type of object again?
Drop down.
Drop down, correct. Yeah, drop down, perfectly fine. Okay, so there is a XPath for the drop down too. Exactly, this is one of those objects. So just try, and name is country. So country, and let's see, 0 matches. Let's try it again. Name is country. Okay, now tell me why 0 match. It should be 1 of 1 match, right? What is the issue? There is silly mistake.
It is you have to use the select option. You cannot.
Correct. Yeah. The type of object is not input anymore. You have to use the select. Good job. So now it is 1 of 1 match. So you have to look carefully. This is the type of object you should be mentioning after double slash. This is the type of object. So far I have been dealing with input, so I just put input and it didn't work. So immediately I take a look at the same. Whoever takes a look at it carefully, they will easily find it. And name is country. This is fine. So object type is type was a problem. Okay. Now we will mention that or store that in our class. Okay, so now we have to rename it appropriately. It's not a text box anymore, it's a drop down. So let's call it a drop down, and that's a country's drop down. So let's call it country, and control A, control C, control V. Okay. Okay, so 3 more objects to go. These are all input boxes, so these are fine. But we have already seen, right? Username, and email was tabbed. Yeah. Tell me.
So you select the drop down option.
Yes.
But which
Tell me
country
your question.
selecting over there? You just put the country, right? But you are selecting any specific country for that or no?
Okay, that is later. Okay. The XPath is only for the outside drop down. Now, whatever is the input value inside United States is like entering something into it, right? First name, we just capture the XPath of first name. Now, first name could be, let's say, Sangam. This is later. This is the input value I am entering. That is the test data. Likewise, whatever I enter, like I want to enter United Kingdom, that is the input I am going to give later. This is
Okay.
nothing to do with the XPath. XPath is only for the outside drop down. Now inside is all my choice. This is all data, test data for me. So we will deal with that later. I'll show you how to do this. You got the right question, but
So it is
we are
only the
not.
face object, right?
Say that again.
It is only for face object, right?
Face object. No. This is just like a data, test data. Like I told you, we will enter this later. Like if I want, you cannot type it in. You should be able to select it, but we will select it later. So right now, the XPath we captured for the country, this is just to locate the element. So let's try it again. So if I put, and is it locating it or not? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is locating. So that's all we need to do. This XPath is only for locating. We don't worry about what value we need to select or type it in. That is later. So we will, that is not happening inside this XPath registration class. That will be happening inside this class, page flows. You know what I mean? Page flows is where we will actually navigate through. Correct. So we are not there yet. That's why I say once we are done with this XPath capturing, we will go there. Okay, username. So like I was telling, username was swapped with email by developer and its ID is email, right? So you have to use the same name. So select becomes input and name becomes email. Okay, so just make sure it is highlighting the appropriate one. Yes, it is highlighting. Now I'll copy the text box one because it's a text box again. Okay, so what is a text box? Username. You don't have to use the spaces, just remove the spaces and combine all the words in the name and take this in. Okay, so now we're good with this. Now let's try password. Okay, so password is also match. Now I take it in. Control. Okay, so just replace this. Okay, one more to go. What this is a confirm password. So let's just try our luck. Confirm. No, it didn't work. Let's just try confirm. Yes, it's actually confirm password with a P, capital P. So I can use it as it is, like contains name, but let's use the whole pass or partially, just confirm pass. That's it. So I'll take it, copy this. So the confirm password. Okay, so we are done with XPaths for this particular. Not yet. So one more to go. Okay, so let's try the last one. Submit, and it is actually a input box only because it's submitting. Submit is considered to be input, but we will name it appropriately. This looks like a link or button. Okay, so but we will actually treat it as a link because it's actually becoming a hyperlink because my arrow icon is becoming a hand icon. That means it's a hyperlink. So we will use appropriately, right? Naming convention should be appropriate according to the user experience. So this is a link again. And what kind of link it is? What is the name of the link? Submit. Okay, so that's input. Yes, input. And just look for the name register, name source, width, height, border. These are all not cannot be used. Register is fine. But let's use register. Okay, so what is the problem?
R is lowercase.
Right. Take it in. Replace. Okay, so we are done with the XPath capturing, and I'll just minimize so that you can see the flow. Okay, so now it's a time to fill these details. Okay, so now we will come to the page flows. Page flows is where you actually enter the details. That means flow. Flow means navigation with all the data inputs and everything done here. Okay, so we'll come back here. Okay, so I created a function called register details because we are trying to register details. So name it appropriately. And every page flows function must take the WebDriver as a parameter. Like, why? Because the WebDriver will be only created once, and that too in the main test case, and where we are creating here by calling the tester on setup don't launch, and this is returning me a WebDriver, right? Now I am storing that WebDriver in the WebDriver type of object, and that would be driver, and everything else will be driven by this driver and this driver only. So like the registration is driven by this driver, that's why I'm passing this. So likewise I will be passing this driver to this register details. So here, so that's why this should be the parameter, not the hard-coded one. Okay. Now, set text is a function we know, right? So if you want to fill these details, what we were doing initially with the Google example, driver dot find, right? What is the line? Can anybody tell me? I mean, this is standard.
Find element.
Correct. This is a standard interview question. So how do you operate on an object using driver? So driver dot find element by, what is by? By is a class which has all the locators. Now what kind of locator you are using?
XPaths.
XPath. Now here is where you actually enter the XPath of the what so-called whatever object you are trying to operate upon. Now where this XPath comes from, we already stored this XPath so that we don't have to retype it like double slash or. Now we know that registration page object has a XPath for the first name, right? So now this, you don't even have to come here because we already renamed it appropriately. All I need to know is a class name, that's all. So I'll show you. So just for the first time I'm just copying, but second time I don't have to do this. Okay. So now everything is static. That means you don't have to create an instance. Just by calling the class name, you can call it. Now registration page object is a class where all the XPath of the register page are stored. That's why naming convention is exactly similar. So just type the class name, registration page object dot. Now choose. So which one is the one? Text box underscore first name. That's it. Now just to check whether it's the correct one or not. Okay, yes, it is the correct one. So this is the XPath for this one. So we are good. Now come back here. Okay, the naming convention is a little bit different. I mean, I know it should be register, right? Register page and registration page. The naming is not exactly similar, correct? So just to avoid that, I'll rename it appropriately. But whenever you want to rename, I told you, you have to rename it by doing this. Right click, refactor, and rename. So register page is a flows class and registration page object. So let's name it properly. So instead of registration, we will call it register, correct? So that this both names are same except for the ops word. So now you can finish it right away without trying to next. Okay, no issues. That means we are good, and go to the class. Now, okay, so now is the thing. Now I don't have to do this every time. I told you, right? Driver.find element by XPath, this is all fine, but I don't have to do it. We know that we have created a reusable function for this, and what is that? And where is it? For typing something into text box. That is in the operations, right? And operations I already created set text, just like click link. We have created set text. It does the same thing. It actually takes driver and XPath expression and the data you want to fill in, because input boxes take something, right? I also pause the parameter. So this is exactly the one we had done just now. Driver.find element by XPath. Instead of XPath being hard coded, I parameterize. That means whatever XPath we pass, that will be taken here. And send case is a method I told you. For button or link, it's a click, but in input box, the method name is send keys, typing something into text box. That's what it is. And it also takes a parameter that is input value, and whatever input value I'll pass from the flows, that will be passed here. So now we go back to that and we will delete this. Okay. If you want me to keep it for the reference, I'll just keep it by commenting. Okay. Now op.setX, correct? So I'll redo it. So operations is the class and operations, right? We already created instance of it. So I'll use op dot. And what is the function to type something?
Hello, Sam.
Yeah, what is the question?
The last line when you are explaining, I couldn't hear it. That's why can you explain it again?
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I was explaining. First, we created all the XPaths here, right? That means XPaths are captured. We are good to go. Now we created similar class in the page flows, like it says register page object, and here it should say register page. That's it. In the register page, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fill in these details. So that's a flow like classes. So that's why the name of the package is flows. And here you have to create a function because it doesn't have any main. So you have to, even the class you have to create function. In some cases, there is one more bunch of fields you need to fill. You can also bifurcate this, like register contact information, register mailing address, register username information, like 3 functions. But we don't want to do this, so that's why I created just one function. And this function should take the same driver, that driver which is created in the test case, correct? This driver should be maintained. So if you want to maintain the driver, just take it as an argument instead of hard coding. So I created an argument for the function. Now what I have to do, I have to fill in this detail. Now one way, basic way is this one. We have already seen it. Driver dot find element by XPath, and XPath takes XPath expression here. So this is little bit modularized. Instead of passing this double slash, all the bunch of stuff, okay, instead of passing this in a hard coded way, what we did already is we already stored this XPath, right? So I simply called this XPath from here. So this register page object is a class name, and this is the static variable. So let's go back and check. Yes, this register page object is a class name, and text box first name is a static variable, static string. So what does it mean? Static. If it is static, then I should be able to call this using the class name directly. Otherwise, they have to create an instance of it, which is a big hassle, headache. So that's why I went for the static. Now let's go back to here, and yeah, bingo. So how do you call it? It's easy. Yeah, just pretend this is not there. Now you have to enter the XPath. Now you already know where this XPath is, because register details page XPaths are stored in register details register page object. So I'll just type the class name. Okay, what is the class name? The second one, page objects. That's why here page flows page. Now select, just put dot, and it will show all the variables, static variables. So now you know what to choose. It's easy now. Choosing is easy rather than typing. So what is the type of object we are trying to fill it?
First.
One. Yeah, that's it. Now if you want to still filter, there may be hundreds, right? So now I know first thing is text box, right? That's why I clearly gave the type of object, text box. So now it filters out. At least you have less things to choose from. And yeah, you can choose. If you still want to filter, like underscore is a convention, and just type F. And with F, there is only one. Obviously, you have to choose this one. So this is the kind of technique you can use. I mean, you will get used to it once you try to do it. Okay. Now this first line is very basic way. Okay, so till this portion you're good, right? You actually missed very little, but I explained. Yeah. Okay, so this is not the way we are doing going forward. Okay, so that's why I'll comment it. I'll leave it for your reference later. This is the linear approach, that linear framework approach. We've already seen it in the Google example. Now we are just upgrading our framework by using the modularized approach. Now for setting text, we already know that we created a function here, operations. Okay, so this is where you have to be doing the groundwork initially, just one time only. You don't have to do it again and again. So what I did is I created reusable function for everything is reusable. Okay, so it's called set text because I want to set text, and this should be taking 3 arguments. WebDriver is a must. Okay, because driver is driven, everything is driven by driver, and this driver should be passed from the test case. So I had to pass this as a parameter. Now obviously XPath expression, because you want to locate some object, and that has to be string, and extra is another input value because it's a in this box is input box. You are typing something runtime, so one more extra value which is input value, let's call it. And whatever you put in there, you put in here driver.findElement by XPath, pass this XPath expression. These 2 variables must match, naming should be exactly, otherwise there will be a problem. Send keys, and this takes whatever you want to input the data, so that should be match. So just double click and it will highlight, that means it's a match. Okay, now created a reusable function. So now we created 2 reusable functions. I'll just put a comment. This is to click, I'll say clicking link or button. So if you just want to click, just call this, and this function is for what is this function is for? This is supposed to be used for
input values, right?
Correct, yeah. Typing, I'll just be elaborate. Typing input value in text box, right? So simple. So you just call this set text. Okay, so now we'll go back to the flows. There's an error, let's see. Okay, so we called it. Okay, so I'll do it again one more time. So all you need to do is just instantiate it. Okay, if you don't want to make static, that is fine too. So let's not make this static every time, which is not good. So again, this function should not be static. All right. Okay, so like this. Now using OP is the instance dot. Now what is a function? Set text. And now it is trying to take 3 arguments. Already one is taken, driver match. Now XPath expression you have to pass, again same thing. So my XPaths are in here, so I'll just type the class name, register page object dot text box, right? See, I don't even have to type them. The reason I took capital letters for every new word is I don't have to type the full name also. T for text box, and I directly started F. Automatically it filtered all the way to single match, right? So TEF, that's it. So that is the advantage of naming convention. If you appropriately name like this, you will be able to use it easily. Okay, now input value is whatever value I want to type it in here, right? So for the time being, I'll just hard code this. Okay, later on we will put these values in Excel spreadsheet and data drive it. That is the next framework, which will be called hybrid. So I don't want to like overwhelm you guys right now. And let's say the input value I want to pass is Sangam. Okay, or you tell me the name, I just pass it. Okay, now what does this line will do? This line actually fills in the detail for this first name guy. Now second is you have to fill in the last name. Now you tell me how to fill it. It's easy, just copy paste or just type it in. OP dot set text, correct. Driver XPath expression is again same story. Register, okay, you have to just type carefully. Register page object dot text box last name, correct. So there you go, and it takes one value. So let's call last name is, let's say, automation. Okay, so now every time I have to do the same thing, you know what to do. I'll just copy paste. I mean, you can do the same once you get hang of it. That text, now you know what to change. Just change the values which are supposed to be changed. Phone. So text box, I know here only I need to change. Just type P. Oh, control shift. Okay. Phone number, right? Yeah, there we go. So it automatically filters and phone number, and you type the phone number like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So just check. You should have done manual testing once because it might accept the hyphens or not. So let's type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Yeah, it does take hyphens. If once you click submit, sometimes it throws an error right here in the page. Okay, hyphens are not applicable or acceptable. So then we can remove from here and here. So for the timing, it is okay. So we'll use it. So that is, if you find some error in the page during debugging time or runtime, we will correct it. Okay, so then email. So it's same thing. Copy paste. Registration page. Now you know what to change. Instead of phone, it will be email. So what I'm trying to do is just press E and control space. Automatically it will fill it for me. So whatever data you want to fill in, you can say it. So let's type automation @selenium.com. Okay, something like some dummy. Okay, so the next is address. Okay, so if you want to clearly like mention these separators, you can do so. So the first is contact information. This is for your readability only, so it doesn't do anything with the coding or execution. So it will be clear. I'm just separating the sections. Mailing information. Okay, that's like informative comments. Okay, so now again you have to fill. So again same thing. op.setText. Driver XPath expression is register dot text box and address one bingo and whatever you want to fill it in. So I'll fill it with some dummy. 1, 2, 3 Main Street. Okay, so we already know that we didn't capture the XPath for this because it's optional. Second, so we can skip that. Now skipping to city. I'll just expand it. So I'll just remove this and just type C and control space and bingo. So it shows the filtered out results. Now I'll be able to choose it. And let's type city name is New York City. Then state or province. So I'll copy this. City will become state. Okay. If there is only match, it will automatically fill it for you. Autofill. It won't even show the suggestions. Okay. So let's say state name is New York. Control C, Control V. Okay. Postal code. Tell me the postal code. Anyone? Okay. What is the postal code for any city? New York City.
10002.
0002. Okay. Okay, so then comes the trouble. Okay, so this is not a text box anymore. This is actually a different field which we haven't encountered before in the automation, right? For the first time we are trying to operate upon it. So let's see what we can do. So I'll try to do it in the test case this way, linear way. Then we will create a reusable function. So otherwise you wouldn't understand what's going on. Okay, so this is a separate there is a separate class created for this type of object, which is drop down in Selenium, and that class name is select. Okay, so first I'm going to create an instance of it because there are a bunch of methods which says how to select a value from this, like one person was asking before, right? How to select these values. So there are methods again. So for example, I want to select United States. So I have to call certain function from the select class. So let's first instantiate it, and let's call this instance select is equal to new select. Okay. Okay, so you have to import it, every time it shows error, you have to import it, and you see the import statement is added. And see, the class is a select, which actually resides in this org.openqa selenium.support.ui. Okay. All right. Okay, so now there is a I am actually, by doing this, I am actually calling the constructor inside the select class, right? New select, this means this is a constructor actually, right? Now there are default constructors. Default means the constructor which do not take any arguments, and there are parameterized constructor. That means the constructors which takes one or more arguments, and this is one of those. This select constructor inside the select class takes one argument. Just hover over it and see what kind of argument it is taking. It is taking a web element argument. Okay, web element we already know, it's just like integer string. The web element is a data type. Okay, I mean it's a class, but it's a data type. You have to pass it. Now how do you get the web element? So web element is very simple. Web element is nothing but the locator. Okay, so if I go there, and this is the XPath, right? And here I'll just uncomment it and show you. I showed you in the beginning class. Okay, I'll show it again. The driver dot find element by XPath, this whole thing gives you the web element. Okay, so then you should be able to operate upon it. So let's try that again, and that way you'll understand better. Okay, so this whole thing, the drive find element function, if you hover over it, see the return type of this function is web element. That means I should be able to store this in a web element type of element. Okay, now this web element is is what is being asked. I'll just load it temporarily. Okay, now select constructor is asking you to enter this web element. That means the whole thing, driver.find element by XPath, this whole thing is giving you a web element. Now what can I do with the web element? I can operate upon it. You know what, this whole thing, the XPath is only this much. This is only XPath. XPath is to locate this. Okay, now the whole, you need more than the XPath to operate upon it. That is a web element. Okay, now this whole driver.find element by XPath gives you the web element. Now on the web element, I just put dot and do whatever I want to do with it. So for example, I want to set text, right? Because it's a input box. Now I'll be able to select send keys, then type my first name. Okay, this is exactly what I did here. This one line means these two lines. Okay, now the whole thing we need to pass just like this. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll comment this for the time being and come down here, and we will create a web element for this. Web element LE, let's call it LE because we have commented the portion, and driver dot find element by dot XPath. Okay, now we have to pass the XPath expression. Which XPath expression? The XPath expression for this drop down, and we already know that we have stored it somewhere, right? Where? In the register page object. So let's call it register page object dot. Now how can I call immediately? Yes, I can call immediately by calling by just mentioning the type of object, which is drop down, and there is only one. Easy. Now select it, bingo. Now this whole thing will give the web element which is required for the select class. So now I'll take this and pass this here. Okay, now that's not all. Now we just located the web element by doing these two things. Now we have to select appropriate option. That means you should be able to input it, right? Now by calling this, by using this instance of select, you should be able to call the appropriate function. So there are three functions. I'll show you by doing dot and those are, I mean, there are more functions, but only 3 functions are useful for now. Select by index, select by value, and select by visible text. Okay. Now select by index is actually going by the index. So the index is, always starts from 0. So Albania means 0, Algeria 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you don't know what the index is for United States, right? It will be very cumbersome if you want to go for the index. So let's not use that. So let's go for the other option. The other option is select by value. Okay, what is the value? Value is something which is given by developer. So let's try and see in the DOM. So you should be checking in the DOM. So if you look at this, there is a arrow, right? Just click on it. See, here the value is given. Value is actually number again. So this is a cumbersome. So if you want to choose, let's say Brazil, then if you're using the option select by value, you should be passing 26, just like the index is. Okay, now that is a problem again. It's not problem, but it is very difficult, right? Now let's go for the other option, which is select by visible text. What does it mean? By the name it says whatever you see is the text that you pass. So let's try and use it. Select by visible text. Now whatever you see here, that itself is the value. So what do you see here? United States. Exactly, I mean, including the case sensitivity, you have to pass. Okay, so now this is the whole story for the drop down. So it's little bit cumbersome, but you have to do it. There's no other option. Okay, now we can do it this way, or you can create a reusable function for it, like I told you, right? So let's create both ways, because first time. So I'll go to operations, because operations actually should contain the operations related, infrastructure related. So let's create a reusable function. This is only one time, but you got to do it. Select a value from drop down. Okay, so let's call it public void select. What should we call it? Select drop down. Okay, and this should take WebDriver, of course, and of course XPath. These two things are must. And the last one is again input, because just like the input text box, it also takes input value. Okay, so now let's define. Okay, so how do we define it? The same way we just defined in the test case, but we are defining it as a reusable function. Okay, so tell me, driver dot
Find element.
Dot XPath, and the XPath expression goes here. Now this whole thing returns me a web element, I told you, right? So I'll store it in a web element LA. Okay, and you have to import it first time. So I'll import it. Okay, so web element is a class which belongs to this package. Org is the topmost package, OpenQA is a sub package, Selenium is a sub package, then web element. Okay, so just think of it as an integer. You're storing integer value, integer int 2, int x is equal to 2, something like this, because the find element returns me web element. It's not integer, so obviously I have to store the whole value in web element. That is how it works. Now you have to create a select instance, because it's a select, right? We have already seen it. It's a select. Where all the way top is a select. So there is a class for it, and I'm creating an instance of it using the new keyword. All right, and selector is the constructor. Okay, I'll tell you. I think I already told you about constructors, right? Constructor is the first one which is called when you instantiate a class, but we will see. Don't worry, I think you forgot about the Java class. And this is not a default constructor, it is a parameterized constructor. That means if you hover over it after importing, it still throws error, and that is an add argument to match. So you can go for it. Okay, now automatically it's intelligent, so it saw the local variable web element LA, it took it, so it's, you can take it. Okay, now last and finally you have to call the appropriate function. So that is select by visible text. Okay. Now here what you have to pass in the place of argument 0, input value. Okay. Now we have created a reusable function also, right? So let's go to the page flow and try to use this. I will also keep this, but in a commented way. Okay, so you can refer to this later. So this is also good, but it's cumbersome. Every time you don't have to do 3 lines just for selecting the drop down value, right? So now tell me, how do we call it? op dot. What is the function?
Set text.
And what is the expression? Expression is already there. So okay, I'll just copy this. The country export, right? We'll pause this and input value. Yes, I can take this one. I mean, it's already done, so I don't want to retype it. So I'll just copy paste. Okay. So this line will do this selection from the drop down. Now rest of the things are again same story, input box. So I'll just op dot set text. Okay, and export expression is register. Now once you get a hold of it, you will do it easily. I mean fast, very fast. So what is it? Username field export. And what is the input? Input you can pass anything, like you can say automation. Yeah, automation user. Let's call it automation user. Okay, so we will do the other two, that is password. So this needs to be changed. And let's say automation pass. Okay, just remember this because we are going to use the same for logging in. These are actually not stored on the server. So just remember, next time if you run the automation, it won't work because there is no mechanism. This website is not maintained. Okay, it's just static. So we will figure out what to do with that. Okay, so then same confirm. So I just have to do the same thing. Okay. So this changes to confirm password, and you have to enter the same password again. So I used it. Okay, so now what is the next thing? This is a link or button, right? So we know what to do with it. What is the operation function we have to use? op dot click. You have to know, right? This is a different type of object, so here you cannot use a text again here. So what is the export expression for it? Register page object dot link. Link is there is only one link. So okay, so we just defined the whole page. Okay, now we got to run it. Now how do we run it? We can't run it yet, right? So unless and until we call this class function inside the test case, because test case will be run, not the other. Okay, so we just got this static thing because we know I removed the static, right? So we have to call it in non-static way. So I showed you 2 ways here. Okay, so let's call this static way. I think it's complaining because I removed stuff there. Let's go there and make it static. But don't do it. You don't have to make every function static, right? I just wanted to show you 2 ways how to call static and non-static. Okay, now everything is good. Come back here. And okay, so I just did the homework. That's filling the register details, right? Delete it. So first thing is clicking the registration. That's all. Registration click. Actually, this doesn't do anything. Home page. Okay, now second thing is we are calling. Okay, do you want me to show how to call? Because I already did that in the last class. Let me do it again so that you will understand what I mean. So second thing is I'm actually doing the register and fill in in the registration details. That's what we are doing. I mean, just being as elaborate as possible. Now we have to call it. Okay, so I can call it two ways, non-static way or static way. So let's call it static way because that's we created those static variables, right? Static functions. So what is the class name here? The class name is coming from page flows, which is register page. Home page is already done. The registration page is the next one, right? Now just call it by the class name register page, and you can easily see page flows. Don't get confused. Even if you confused, you can see the folder name here. This is a folder name, this is a class name, folder name, and you can see the class name. This is the interface. Don't call it. Okay, register page dot, and this is a function we just notified, and this takes the driver. Driver is maintained. That's why I'm saying same driver. Use the same driver. Okay, so it's time to execute it. I'll close this. Right click, run Java. Okay, so now it is going to click registration. Now it will fill whatever we just now did. It's going to do that. There is any issue, we'll see what's the issue. So it, like I told you, it will wait. The top ring thing, this will okay, it will have to stop and then it will perform. So don't panic if he is not filling the details, because this has to stop. That means you can wait implicitly. The rendering is not done yet. Now you just click the submit button, then you will come here. Okay, now whatever we did, it perfectly fine. It went through perfectly fine, no issue. Okay, so if you get any issues, you have to solve it just the way. So for example, XPath is wrong or something else is wrong, then you have to figure out. Just click on the link and go there. That is your job. Okay, now in this page I want to validate something. See, for example, I gave Sangam as a first name, automation as a last name. Now in the confirmation page, which is this, it should say dear first name, whatever first name you filled, and last name. Okay, that is the first thing. Also, we entered this username, and it should say note your username is whatever we entered. Okay, whatever we entered means whatever we actually filled in the flows page here. So two things: first name, last name, correct? Dear first name, last name. Now if I change this to something else, it has to show that something else, whatever that is. And the second validation is the username. Username is automation user, and whatever that is, whatever means whatever, really. Your username is whatever that username is. Okay, exactly, that should match. Two validations. So what I'll show you is quickly I'll validate this one and give you the homework for this one. Okay, so that you can do it quickly. And this is a new page, correct? Register page. We will quickly create it because we are already out of time, but don't worry. Okay, so this also says register, but I'll call it a register confirmation because it's a confirmation page. We already registered and it's a confirmation page, correct? So we'll create page flows, new class register confirm page, right? And I would need one more for XPath because there may be one XPath, but you still have to create it. It's standard. Okay, register confirm page object. Okay, now first things first, we will capture the XPath. Now what XPath you want to capture here? What is the field? Anybody quickly? What I want to capture the XPath for? So I want to validate this one, right? Now this is the object. What is the object? It is a text object. It's not a text box or something. Everything is an object, like I told you in the web page. Everything is an object. These are objects already, you know. but this is also an object, and it is a label or text object. So if you want to operate upon it, what is the operation? Capturing. You're not doing anything. Why we are capturing? To validate it. For validation, I need two values, right? One is actual value, one is expected value. Actual value is this one, runtime, and expected value I already know. Okay, my requirement is expected value that says dear first name space last name, comma. That is the requirement which is expected. Now, in order to capture this, you need to again find out the XPath. Same story, just select it, go there, and there you go. That's a match. Now you have to write it. It's not a match anymore. Okay. Now what is the type of object? Same story, you already know. So tell me quickly.
Text.
Yes, what is it?
Text.
What do you see here? Huh?
Text.
What is the object here? What is the type of object? No. Text is the one I said because it's a text. It should be link, right? This is a link. But in DOM, huh? Right at that. Okay, right. This is a link, right? But in DOM it is specified as A. Okay, I'll show you. So you are right, but according to developer it is wrong. Okay, see, this is a type of object. A is a type of object. So this is a link. The type of object according to the end layman, this is a link. But according to developer, it's A. So when I ask you what type of object it is, you should say A because DOM. Okay, so you have to mention A, not link. Link won't work. Correct. So likewise, tell me what is the type of object? What do you think?
B.
B.
Font.
Okay. After A it is B. That's why it is B. Yes, you're right. B. It is B. You can also take font. Okay. Actually, font is the object type. See, that is a font. B is actually for bold. In HTML, B is for bold. This is in bold. That's why it is bold. But you are still right. You're not wrong. Okay. You're not wrong. That doesn't mean you're right. But you're still there. Okay. So let's use B. There are two B's. Why? Because there are two bolds. One is this and one is this, right? So let's dig down and see if you can get to the single match. Okay. So now how can it take it? What is the property? Okay. I'll just fill the template for you. Contains @ you have to mention what is that object property, okay, and comma. Here you have to fill in the value, correct, and close bracket and close. Okay, now we have to fill in these values. It's still wrong. I just filled in created a template or syntax for you. Okay, so what should I take here?
Dear.
Dear Sangam automation.
Correct, that is correct. Yeah. So now what is the object property? That is a value. You are right. But what is the property?
Text.
If no property is mentioned, what is the object property? I told you. Text. So we are getting single match. Okay, it is fine. Okay, still we are not there yet. Why? Because the dear Sangam automation is subject to change dynamically. Why? Because if I change first name here, correct, where is that guy? First name, yeah, here, yeah. So if I change first name, let's say tomorrow I'll change Sangam to, let's say, Selenium, then it would change dear Selenium automation. So obviously it's dynamic, correct. So now what should I do? Because I already mentioned contains, right? Contains is for partial text. Let's see if you can remove these dynamic values. Right. Yeah, I will see. Just dear will work or not. Okay, so let's remove comma. Yes, it is working. So there is only one dear word. If you observe in this page, fortunately there is only one dear word, and that is a match. So we are lucky. Otherwise we have to work on it by mentioning its parents, font, TD. We have to go up and go down a little bit. Okay, that would be a problem. But I will show you later whenever we get that opportunity. Right now we are good because we got a single match. So let's take it in. Okay, now how do you mention the parent? We can easily mention the parent. Just keep the double slash before because this starts from HTML. just put a single slash. Okay, right here, just mention font. We are still getting. So this means font is the parent, B is the child. Okay, you see this? Font is a parent, B is a child. So in case you're getting 1 of 2 matches or something like this, you can mention this. And for font also you can mention property and value. So same way, just put a square bracket contains property, value, and bingo. So the only thing that is separating parent from child is the slash, single slash. Single slash means immediate parent, double slash means distant parent. That means there are more grandparents in between. So okay, so we can take this one also, no problem. So let's take it, and you know where to store it. Appropriate export page objects here. Every time it is the same standard, so do not go. Do not skip any of these standards. And what is the signature for this variable? Export variable, public, static, final string. You should remember. Okay, interview question. How do you store the exports as a public static final string? Why? Because public, I want to access this from outside the class. Static, because I want to be able to access in static way using class name. Final, because I don't want these to be changed its value. String was string because it's string. That's the explanation. And what is the type of object? It is a text, right? It's not a text box, it is text, or you can call it label also. It's up to you. Okay, so I would like to use it as text underscore. And what is this? You can call it dear, first name, last name. Okay, because there is no other option how to call it. How else to call it? Okay, so now that is the export, and store it and end it with a semicolon. Okay, bingo. Okay, one more is we will also capture this one, and I will capture it for you. Or do you want to capture it yourself as a homework? This is your homework, right? So I will leave it to you because you want to do it yourself too. So just one for now. You capture it, capture the other one, and do the homework. Okay. Now let's quickly go to the page flow, and you have to create a function because in the class you cannot directly define it, right? Or capturing or whatever. You have to create a function. Now this function I would call it capturing this whatever function. So it has to be public, and it has to be string type. Return type should be string because I am going to return this, so it should not be void. So let's create a return type string, and the function name I want to call it as register confirmation, right? Confirm underscore dear. Okay, so that we'll know this is for dear, and you call this as a register confirm underscore user. Okay, so that should be your function name. So I am leaving that for you. And every time you know what to do. So you have to pass the WebDriver as a parameter because that has to be maintained, passed from the test case, right? And what else we need to pass? XPath. Okay, XPath is not required here because we are going to call it from the page objects directly. Okay, so just import. Okay, so now we have to use we have to capture this whatever this is, right? Now I will do it non-reusable way, and then we'll create a function also. Don't worry. Why is this throwing this? Add a return statement immediately throws. Just add return, or we will add it later. Okay. Now you know driver dot find element y dot XPath, and you're passing the XPath expression here, right? So should we pass XPath expression here? Yes. The one thing you remember, because this is a standard we are following, page flows should not have those XPath expression as the parameter argument. It should be right within, right? So let's come back to this confirm page, and you have to pass the XPath expression where here, and we already stored the XPath expression in here, right? So let's pass this right away. Register confirm page here. Register page, not this. Register confirm page. This one. Look for the page objects. Okay. So there are a bunch of registers. Don't get confused. And what is that? Text dear FNLN. That's it. There's only one. Okay, now watch carefully. So I have to do something with it, correct? What is that operation? Operation in this case is not click or set text, it is get something from the page. So there is a function get text. Okay, so this is returning string, that's why my return type of function is string. Okay, and it is taking web element, so I pass the whole thing as a web element. Now select this. So this is a different kind of operation, so far we haven't used it, so pay attention. So this is the whole thing. So what it is going to give me is, it is going to give me the string. So if you hover over it, its return type is string. Obviously when the return type of that is string, so I have to store this in a string variable. So let's call it string value, something like this. Okay, now you're returning this string. So what string? Value. So simply add return statement. What value? Whatever value you want to capture. It's a captured value actually. So let's call it captured. Name doesn't matter. Okay, so you can put whatever you want to call it. Captured value. So you return captured value. Okay, now we just did it. We will create a reusable function later. Okay, or if you want me to create right now, I'll create it. It's easy. All you have to do is go to operations and create one. It's for get text from page. So public void. Now it should not be void, we already know. So string and get text, let's call it. Okay, this takes WebDriver and driver, right? And string XPath expression, right? That's it. And you know what to do. We just did it. Okay, what is it? Driver dot find element y dot XPath and dot get text. Okay, now here to return the whole thing. That's what we did. You can return this whole thing in single line. Okay, did you get this part? Yes or no? Did you understand what I just did?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so yes, only yes, that means others are no. So what I just did is 2 lines in one go. Okay, so don't get confused. You know get text returns string, so I stored this value in a string and then return the value. So what I did just before is just I combined these 2 lines in one go. Okay, so do not get confused. So you prefer this way or that way? Because we just need to return, we can do it. Okay, so since it's a beginning, I'll keep this is easier for you to remember. Okay, so now we will go back to the whatever class we called that register confirmation. So same thing, instead of this you can also do that operations, right? So I have to again instantiate it. Operations op is equal to new operations. Same way, I'm not doing anything new, I'm just doing the same thing again and again. Okay, so instead of this linear way, you can also do it in a reusable way. Op dot, what is the function, info function that we just defined? Get text, correct? And you pass the XPath expression. What is the XPath expression? The same thing, this whole thing, right? Now I'll pause this, and this returns me a string, right? And you can store this in a string. And what is this string? This is the actual value. Actual, let's call it actual value underscore register confirm dir. Okay, so I just want to be clear, so that's why registration confirmation for the dir, that is the actual value because we captured it from the page real time, so that is actual value. Okay, so either you do this or do this. Don't do both because it's going to create confusion. So I'll just comment this one. This is a non-reusable way, this is a reusable way. That's all the difference is. Okay, now we have to end this with a semicolon, that's why error. Okay, now we have to compare this. Okay, so watch carefully. Now in order to compare, you have to have two values. One is expected, one is actual. So you should have the expected already. Now I already told you expected comes from the requirement. So let's call this expected value underscore reg confirmation for the dear word, dear sentence, and that says dear first name, last name, right? So for the timing, I'll hard code it because it takes more coding to actually parameterize this. You have to capture this from that class and capture this from that class and put it here. That I'll show in the next class. For the time being, just understand that this is a Selenium. That's what we are doing, right? So just capture it. This whole thing, including comma, because the XPath is for the whole thing, including comma. So just copy it and put it in the quotes. So this whole thing is my expected value. Okay, dear Sangam. Okay, so just what is this error? Add return statement. Why we are getting error return statement here? Okay, so return statement is actually okay. So what I'll do is I will take this. Let's call this another function public void validation. Okay, because I don't want to put both the things here. And validation just validates. So that's it. And put it here. Okay, so this actually returns something, right? So let's put this actual value in here. All right, and make it return this. Actually, this is not required, but for the timing, it's okay. And this is returning something. So let's see. We don't have to return actually. So let's make void because we have the value right here. Let's remove. So right now we have actual value and expected value. Okay. So validation. Let's do it here. Okay. So I don't want to confuse you guys. Validation we will do in the same function. Okay. So let's take this guy here, Control X, Control V. Okay, so instead of creating a new function, I'll just call it validation as a separate section. So we will create one new later. So in the validation, what we have to do, you already know, just compare these two guys. And how do you compare? If expected dot equals actual, then that means both are equal. Then sys out for the timing. We will create reporting later. Pass, let's say dear confirmation is passed. You can say whatever you want to here, but I'll just call it this way. Else, then you say if both are not equal, then you will say fail. Okay, simple confirmation, simple pass or fail reporting. We can change it later. I mean, you can put what is the actual value, what is the expected value by putting all this concatenation operator. That is cumbersome. You can do it later. Okay, so we have defined this register confirmation dear. All we have to do is just call it in the test case. So where is the test case? Okay, so here we are. The third part is register, and this is for the confirmation, and it is also for the validation. So let's use this. Okay, now how do we call this third class function? The function in the third class that we have created just now, using the class name, right? Can we use the class name or not? Is it a static? No. So obviously you cannot use a class name. You have to create an instance of it, and new is a keyword. Register. Okay, so which is a class? Register confirmation page from the page flows. Okay, so not the other way. Dot, what is the function name? Register confirm delete, right? Which has both operation, getting the value as well as the validation. Okay, and I'm passing the driver. Okay, that's it. So let's run and see. and your task has to be, I'll write it and send in the email also. Homework should be, what you have to do, you have to capture this whole thing, valid capture and validate this whole thing note. Okay, so that is your. Okay, so now first what I will show you is the failure case. Why I'm saying failure case? Because the value I actually entered here is Selenium, right? Selenium automation. Now in the confirmation page, I actually put Sangam automation, dear Sangam. So it will fail. First let's fail it, then we'll pass it. Okay. So what it will do is it will run the whole thing, then fail it because it's not a match. Dear Sangam automation not equal to dear Selenium automation, right? Both are not match. So it will come here and print this. Next we'll correct it and it will pass. Both we will see. Okay. So it will take 2 minutes. Run test case. Okay. Okay, so it is entering Selenium. Now, obviously, dear Selenium automation will be the wording in the next page, and it's supposed to fail. Okay, that's how we designed test. Yes, or it will fail somewhere in the XPaths. No such element found because the it won't fail because we use just dear, right? So we are good. Okay. Now execution is done. I didn't close it, so I have to close it manually. And failed. Okay, dear confirmation is failed. Why? Because we already know both are not matched. Now let's pass it. And way to pass it in the registration page, Selenium, but in the confirmation page, we have to use the same wording, right? Selenium. I mean, it's not true every time, whatever you pass it, but this time it's okay in this mod approach. Okay, so in the past, I want to mention exact wording. So whatever is the expected actual, so let's print it, dear confirmation, and let's, okay. Apart from this, I want to close the browser also. Let's add it, but we will comment it later. So that should be finally, right? Lastly. So how do you close? Driver.close. Okay. So let's quickly run it for the last time, and I will call it a night. Okay, so confirmed and close the browser. That is it. And did it pass or fail? It passed because it's a match, dear Selenium automation. Okay, so everybody got that, I hope. Now in the next class, before the next class, what you have to do, you know, right? What you have to do is you have to do the same thing, whatever I did for this registration confirmation, you have to do this for the note. Your username is whatever username you will put, it has to pass. So try both with negative and positive, fail and pass. So all you have to do is this thing only, just create a new function which says register confirm underscore note. Okay, now capture this expected value and actual value like this. Expected actual value is the one you have captured using get text, and expected value should be same as this, whatever note, right? So you copy paste this one here and then compare using this expected value dot equals actual value. That's it, bingo. So in this separate function in the same class, create a new function like this. You can copy paste this one. Okay, so that's your task for the next class, before the next class. Okay, so hope everybody understood this. I'll send this total project and notes. There are no notes actually, so everything is in the code. Okay, so any doubts, or let's close it? Okay, good night.